Anthony Towns on the move out of Minnesota. Developing story here on SportsCenter. The New York Knicks and Minnesota are finalizing a trade involving Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, along with the first-round draft pick for Karl Anthony Towns.
Jay, blockbuster deal that lands the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo, All-NBA guard Damian Lillard. It's a three-team trade that brings Lillard to the Bucks.
All right, man. I didn't really want to make this video because Giannis is truly one of my favorite players to root for. But I actually believe with the big news breaking on Friday night, people are somewhat missing the bigger picture. September 27th of this year, Friday night, we randomly got the breaking news that two championship contenders in their respective conferences are making a star-for-star trade, which is very abnormal. Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle for Karl Anthony Towns. Now, in my opinion, this trade makes no sense on the basketball court for Minnesota unless Julius Randle buys all the way in to the role Naz Reid had last year, winning Sixth Man of the Year. And I think he could thrive in that. But financially, it makes perfect sense for both organizations. I know a lot of casual fans keep hearing this term apron, and specifically second apron. And it may not seem as significant to you as someone who probably just wants to enjoy the hoops, but it literally dictates the future of roster construction going forward with the new NBA. And I've talked about this multiple times. You see, there's a number for the second apron that teams are petrified to cross, especially if your team is not truly a championship contender. Why are teams so scared to cross it? Well, because it comes with these extremely harsh penalties that really puts a cap on how flexible said organization can really be. That's why you don't really cross it unless you know, oh, we can really win this thing. Hence why Paul George is now in Philly. Steve Ballmer knows this thing doesn't even really work, so is it even worth the penalties? Denver with KCP. He's in Orlando now because unfortunately, he's too expensive. Organizations know they sometimes can't afford these players, so they sacrifice current talent for overall flexibility for their future. Prior to Friday, September 27th, there were only 4 teams heading into this following season over the second apron. Minnesota, projected to pay this big three over $135 million, they were one of those teams. They gave Cat a 4-year salary of about $55 million annually, and it officially kicks in this year. They didn't want to pay that. So of course, even if the fit is funky for a year, they would welcome Julius Randle for a year of $30 million as opposed to paying Cat way over what he's probably even worth and facing those harsh penalties. They're not just thinking about next year. Ant is 22 years old. New York now, with the offseason they already had prior to Cat even joining and now getting Cat, they're the scariest team to Boston in my opinion. They match up almost as good as you possibly can. Now, how does this tie all the way back to Milwaukee and specifically Giannis? September 27th of last year, they made this trade really based off of these comments by Giannis a month prior to the deal even taking place, and I quote, "Next summer, it would make more sense for both parties, and even then, I still don't know. I would not be able to be the best version of myself if I don't know everyone's on the same page. Everyone's going for a championship. Everyone's going to sacrifice time away from their families like I do. If I don't feel that, I'm not signing." A month later, out of nowhere, kind of like this last trade, Milwaukee went and stole Dame. Giannis eventually signed that extension early that he said he wouldn't, and he may have put himself in the worst situation of any superstar playing, and I don't even know if it's close. This video is sponsored by Manscaped. Today I want to talk to you guys about their Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra Forged Gold Edition, and this is by far my favorite one yet. First of all, just look at the colorway. Like, it almost looks too good for the job that it actually does. The updated trimmer has longer, wider, more rounded teeth to tackle that hair down there effortlessly. Also, it comes with a foil blade that you can attach that basically leaves you bare if that's what you want. My personal favorite feature is their dual temperature LED light that's perfectly crafted and designed for our different skin tones. And also, if you shave in the shower, it's waterproof, so it's convenient enough where they have you there as well. If you want this brand new Forged Gold Edition that to me looks beautiful, head over to manscaped.com and use my promo code SWISH to get 20% off of your first order plus free international shipping. That's 20% off of your first order plus free international shipping with my promo code SWISH, only at manscaped.com.
I think the best player in the world is the person that is the last one standing. He's the person that takes his team to the finish line, and helps them win the game. Win games and become champion. 2 years ago when we did that, when I was sleeping in my bed, I was like, maybe I'm the best player in the world, But now, no. So that's how I view it. I believe that the best player in the world is Steph Curry. It's still the next player.
If it's one thing I know and love about Giannis, this man is never content with his career, even when he's succeeding. I remember even when he won his MVP, he said, don't call me an MVP until I win a championship. Even after he won his championship, he still insisted on not being labeled a champion until he did it again. The following season, they lost in 7 games to Boston without Chris Middleton, and most people still considered Giannis to be the best player on the planet. He still insisted, call Steph that, don't call me, I didn't win. This man has been very consistent on never being content with even his own respected status, and he applies that exact same pressure to his team. That I have to respect. I don't know if people quite understand this, but superstars, legends, they can easily have time periods in their careers where they waste pivotal years of their primes with the wrong organization. Look at his teammate. Think about it like this. Giannis won his championship at 27 years old, and this December, he'll be 30. It's not old, but it's obviously not young. And Giannis plays a very physical style of basketball, and he hasn't been the healthiest since winning that championship 3 years ago. The following 3 seasons, post winning that championship, Giannis is 7-8 in the playoffs, and obviously it's not all his fault, but he hasn't even played second round basketball in 2 years. As dominant as can be, almost underratedly dominant, is like we take him for granted, but those prime years, they can go by fast. Kobe Bryant post Shaq, he kinda had a similar 3-year span to Giannis. Literally had the best 3-year window of his career stat-wise, but his team couldn't quite get over that hump, and he put pressure on his organization because of it. Kevin Garnett, at 27 years old, he didn't win a championship like Giannis, but he did win an MVP and made a conference finals. The following 3 years with Minnesota, he still played great, but they were pretty much wasted years because they did nothing. He did ultimately end up winning a championship with Boston, but that was the latter years of his career, and he was like 31 years old. Obviously, it worked out well for those two, but it doesn't always end that way, and that's exactly why I'm very worried about Giannis. I told you, prior to Friday, there were 4 teams going into next year above the second apron. Well, now there's 3. Phoenix, who most people laugh at for another failed KD super team, Boston, who just won an NBA championship so it's justified, and Milwaukee. After Milwaukee made that trade for Dame, Giannis, he signed that extension that he was previously hesitant about. Now he's going to be with Milwaukee under contract until at least 2027. But there's only one problem. The roster that initially sold Giannis isn't that good. They're old, they're very expensive, they have glaring holes. They put all their stock into a magical defensive liability 34-year-old point guard that really didn't even manifest into what they thought. And even if he does, I don't even think it's enough because the East got way better. They struggled significantly last year, and Philly was down last year because James Harden left and Joel Embiid, the MVP, was gone basically the majority of the year. Well, now Paul George is possibly their third option. They're going to be better. The Knicks, it feels like their 2024 resolution was to build a team to mirror Boston. Look at all the moves they made in 2024 alone. And Boston, they lost nothing, and psychologically they finally got over that championship hump, and they've been disrespected all summer. They're going to come back with urgency. It literally feels like everyone got better except Milwaukee. And then directly after the Cat news broke, which is ultimately bad for Milwaukee because that's more competition in the East, they got direct bad news for their team. Chris Middleton has not been the same since injuring that knee in 2022. I'm sorry, he just hasn't. It's a tough injury to come back from, and he really hasn't. Chris, since that injury, he's played in 88 games. Out of those 88 games, do you know how many games he's even played 30 minutes? 31 games. The Bucks, they've really been nursing him back off that knee injury for about 2 years now. Then it comes out on Saturday. Chris Middleton has still yet to be cleared to play 5-on-5 action because he had surgeries on both ankles this offseason. Bro, that sounds terrible. Last offseason, they just gave Chris Middleton a $100 million contract. One of the biggest reasons they're even over that second apron and they have zero flexibility is obviously Dame and Giannis. They take up a lot of their money, and that's why that pairing has to work. It literally has to. But also Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez. They probably mistakenly show loyalty to that previous championship core, excluding Drew Holiday, which was obviously a mistake. And this is what it looks like. So now Chris Middleton, who's still taking up a sizable amount of your cap, it's not like he's making $15 million a year. He has another lower extremity injury, 2 surgeries to both feet, and we don't even know when he's coming back or what he's going to look like when he comes back. And they need him. That's a very thin team. This experiment is also new. Dame just got there. They have a new coach. I mean, it just seems like everything is off. It seems like Giannis finds himself in the worst situation of any superstar, especially any superstar of that magnitude. You possibly could say Steph, but Steph is a made man. Giannis has a lot of meat left on that bone. And the bad part about it, I don't even know if he can blame anyone, because every move they made, or at least specifically last September 27th, was to make him happy. And it just hasn't quite worked out. If you guys like this video, let me know in the comment section what you feel about Milwaukee. To me, their situation feels nasty. Nothing feels right. Everything feels weird. They can't get any type of continuity because guys are in and out, injuries, retirement home. Nothing feels right in Milwaukee. I'm sorry.